Hello, American Patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, but you chose to be here, and for that, I am forever grateful. I absolutely am astounded by those that subscribe to my channel, my website, that follow what I do, what I say. Thank you. It means more to me than you will ever know. American Patriots is what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. Before we get into the show, I'd like to clear up a few things for everyone. First off, my father is doing better. He will have to have a surgery probably soon. He's in his 80s, so that's difficult to make that decision, but it's probably going to be for the best. So he's by no means out of the water. We got a ways to go with him, but please keep him and my mom in your thoughts and prayers as we move forward and try and get him back on his feet and doing better. The other thing is we have a new YouTube channel. It's called The Douglas Ducote Show. You can get the link in my community section. Why it doesn't show up when you type it in the search engine, I don't know. That's YouTube and Google for you. But if you type in the search, The Douglas Ducote Show, and then you filter it and click on channels for the filter, you can find it. Or just go to the community section and click there, and please subscribe, ring the bell, because come next week, that's where the show will be aired. So tonight and Thursday night, we do the show here, pending any issues where I have to take off to Louisiana or to Baton Rouge again, which I hope not, to help with my family. So anyhow, there's that. And there's also the website, douglasducote.com. Please go over there, check it out. If you're new to me and what I have to say, you can learn a lot about me there and see pictures of my service for this country and law enforcement, as well as in the military. So let's get right into the absolute dog and pony show that took place today. What I refer to as Impeachment Act 2, because the first act failed. As we all know, the House impeached the president and went to the Senate. The Senate did not impeach the president, and only the Senate can remove a president. And here we are. Trump is, unless you just woke up from under a rock or a coma, Trump is no longer in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And they went forward with this anyhow. So today was set to do one thing and one thing only. And that is the Democrats will give their spiel on why Trump should be impeached. And then his side, his attorneys, will stand up and say why he shouldn't be impeached. And we're going to get into what the Constitution actually says. But let me say this. Trump's attorneys that spoke when it was his time were David Schroen, S-C-H-O-E-N, and Bruce Castor, C-A-S-T-O-R. I don't care what you need an attorney for. Anything from a jaywalking ticket to murder. Don't hire these two individuals. There's no doubt in my mind that President Trump probably, if he had a weapon handy, shot out his television set because this was shameful. They should not get a single penny for today's performance. It was the worst performance of a defense team I've ever witnessed in my soon-to-be 59 years on planet Earth come April. This was unbelievable. The first guy gets up and talks about his grandkids, about his kids, about things that had nothing to do with defending President Trump. When the host of the different shows on CNN and MSNBC are saying, "What the hell was that?" You know things went bad. And they were actually going, "Oh my gosh, how is this possible?" They didn't even get up and defend the guy. In fact, they actually agreed with some of the stuff that the Democrats spewed about. You can go back and watch it. I'm sure it's uploaded all over YouTube now in different places on the net. My dog, Sir Peanut, could have represented Trump better than these two did. And he doesn't speak English. He's a Chihuahua. He speaks Spanish. Okay, so the Senate voted today to move ahead with the unprecedented impeachment trial of former President Donald J. Trump after listening to nearly 4 hours of arguments on whether it is constitutional to try a president who is already out of office. The vote was 56-44. And again, we're going to talk about what exactly the Constitution says. And if you know what it says, you know that there was no reason whatsoever for this Senate to even hold today's hearing because it's absolutely BS. Here's the big one. 6 Republicans join the Democrats on voting to continue the trial. That's right. Today, they could have stood up for the United States Constitution. They should know what it says. Obviously, they don't. They could have at least took the time to read their part of the Constitution on what our founding fathers set in motion for them to address or not address. And at the end of today, it should have been over with. And they should have all decided that the Constitution does not give the authority to the Senate to move forward. But that's not what happened. Senator Susan Collins of Maine voted with the Democrats. Liz Murkowski of Alaska voted with the Democrats. Mitt Romney of Utah voted with the Democrats. Ben Sasse of Nebraska voted with the Democrats. And Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania voted with the Democrats. And I'll be damned if right here, Louisiana, Senator Bill Cassidy changed his vote and voted with the Democrats to hold a trial. So tomorrow at 12 noon, the official trial will start. Now, I gave Cassidy the benefit of the doubt originally when I heard this news because I've known him for a long time. Let's see. I met him for the first time in 2004. And when I started my nonprofit, Veterans United for Justice, he helped a lot of our vets out. Hell, he helped me personally out and with my VA stuff. And then anytime I needed congressional help with him, with a veteran, he was Johnny on the spot, stepped up and took care of business. He loves the military. He loves the National Guard, the reservist. He loves our veterans. He and I have spoken at many events together where either I was the keynote speaker and he came on before me or vice versa. I consider Bill Cassidy a friend. I mean, that's how it is. That being said, he finally had the opportunity to speak to the cameras and explain why he voted the way he did. Cassidy changed his vote from January when he was among the 45 Republicans who supported a motion by Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, that declared the trial unconstitutional. Cassidy said he was persuaded by the House impeachment manager's arguments on Tuesday, today. If anyone disagrees with my vote, I would like an explanation. I ask them to listen to the arguments presented by the House managers and former President Trump's lawyers, Cassidy said in his statement and when he talked to the cameras. The House managers had a much stronger constitutional argument. The president's team did not. Now, I, for one, agree 100% with that statement. The impeachment folks for the Democrats for 2 hours laid out their case and why they believe this should go forward. And as I already told you, the lawyers for Trump got up and talked about Sesame Street and Big Bird. I mean, it was cringeworthy. It was like, what the hell just happened here? What are they talking about? And how can you go so far off topic that you're making a mockery out of this entire situation? So let's talk about our forefathers and what Senator Cassidy should have done, which is what the other 45 Republican senators did do. Read the damn Constitution. If nothing else, read the section that applies to what is asked of you to do. That's all you got to do, Senator Cassidy. That's it. Nothing else. We're not asking you to guess. We're not asking you to decide which attorney had the better argument, because the Constitution lays it out very, very simple. The Constitution isn't a war and peace novel. It doesn't require someone with a degree in rocket science to figure it out. It's simple. The words are plain. They don't go into a whole bunch of drastic detail of anything that they talk about. It's cut and dry. The impeachment provisions of the Constitution 839 were derived from English practice, but there are important differences. In England, impeachment had a far broader scope. While impeachment was a device to remove from office one who abused his office or misbehaved, but who was protected by the crown. It could be used against anyone, office holder or not, and was penal in nature, with possible penalties of fines, imprisonment, or even death. By contrast, the American impeachment process is remedial, not penal. It is limited to office holders, and judgments are limited to no more than removal from office, which also entails disqualification to hold future office. The intention of the framers was, for the most part, fixed on the president and his removal. And the results of this narrow frame of reference and reflected in the questions unresolved by the language of the Constitution. Now, drum roll, please. This is how simple their job was today. And all 45 senators, except for Cassidy, got it right by just reading Article 2, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, which says the president, vice president, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and convictions of treason, bribery, or high crimes and misdemeanors. No place in the Constitution does it say that you can go after former presidents, former vice presidents, former official officers of the United States. It can't be simpler than that. It's like our Second Amendment rights. How simple is that? It's like our First Amendment rights. How simple is that? But see, here's where the kicker is. The Democrats and some Republicans, they want to interpret what the forefathers meant. They want to think what they were thinking. What did they possibly mean when they worded it this way or that way? It's cut and dry, my friends. It stood for all these years. It's simple. This is not a document that requires a law degree to understand. It's simple. But it's not simple enough for some people. Before they chose Joe Biden to be the person to go up against Trump for the 2020 election, there was a whole list of characters, which you all saw in their debates. And one of the big talking points that Cory Booker had, Congressman Cory Booker, who wanted to be that person, not Joe Biden, was that if elected, he promised that the U.S. Constitution would be updated to reflect current views of America's society. Basically, to hell with what our forefathers said, or what they thought, or what they wrote. That happened then. This is now. I will rewrite the United States Constitution. And that's why his chances of becoming president from that point on went to zero. Because even Democrat voters went, the hell are you talking about? You can't do that. And true, he can't. Can't even do it by executive order. It would require Congress to get involved. and probably even the Supreme Court for that matter. There were things said by Democrats in those televised debates that were mind-boggling about how they viewed the United States Constitution, how they viewed our First Amendment rights, how they viewed what the Second Amendment says about our guns. And of course, we all know that social media and the liberal media, CNN and MSNBC, and even Fox News now, spews interpretation of how they see what the Constitution says, that it doesn't say. It is becoming very rapidly a country that I don't recognize. The Democrat ideology is not something that I will fall in line with. I do not believe in interpreting the United States Constitution for your own political gain the way you think it should go. And for those of you that have followed me for a while, you know that I have called out Republicans just as I have Democrats for their stupidity on Capitol Hill. And the things they have said and the things they have done that are completely and utterly irresponsible and should have never happened. But sadly, it does, and they get away with it. While we're on the subject of getting away with things, setting the impeachment debacle aside, many of you know that I'm very passionate about our border, the borders of America. Without borders, you do not have a country. That's pretty damn simple. The Democrats and liberals didn't want a wall. Biden got elected, he stopped the wall construction. There will not be another foot of wall built. And there's many a feet left, trust me. We went down there. We did several documentaries. You can see them all at DouglasDucote.com. They're all there. You can see firsthand what we experienced and the people we talked to show you just how bad the border situation is. Joe Biden comes along and he's laid out his framework for his immigration strategy. U.S. Immigrations and Customs, ICE, will no longer be allowed to deport undocumented immigrants who have been convicted of driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. ICE will no longer be able to deport illegal immigrants for solicitation of prostitution or prostitution. ICE will no longer be able to deport illegal immigrants for simple assault charges. ICE will no longer be able to deport undocumented immigrants for any drug-related crimes. The priority of the enforcement of immigration laws will be on those who pose a national security threat only. Meanwhile, some progressive Democrats have went further and would like Joe Biden to completely abolish ICE, U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. They are Congresswoman AOC, aka Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Congresswoman Anita Presley, as well as the two Muslim women that took an oath to support our Constitution with their hand on the Quran, taking their oath to Allah and not God with their hand on the Bible, which means that they didn't take an oath to support our Constitution. They too, in fact, they want not just ICE to be done away with, they want to defund law enforcement all across America. And they're on record saying it. And they're proud of what they say. Frederick County, Maryland. How far away from the border can you get? Frederick County, Maryland Sheriff Chuck Jenkins warned of President Joe Biden's immigration actions on yesterday, while he was on Fox and Friends, arguing that Americans will not be safe and immigrant communities will not be safe. These types of laws lead to more victims of crime, more violent crime, and gangs infiltrating this country. Jenkins also said Americans should be outraged at Biden for his immigration actions, arguing that the president has dismantled ICE by basically telling the agents to stand down. This is extreme, he said. It literally feels like we've gone from the ability to fully enforce our immigration laws to now being told to enforce nothing. Stand down. What other law enforcement agencies have been told to stand down? Let's see. Pick a Democrat city. And when I say a Democrat city, it doesn't mean it's a Democrat city. I mean that has a Democrat mayor. Any city in America with a Democrat mayor where Antifa and BLM have uprised and committed violent acts with the CNN cameras rolling by burning down police stations, setting police cars on fire, burning down churches, post office, courthouses, Targets, Walmarts, and looting and rioting. Their officers were told to stand down. In many situations, their officers were removed of their ability to use non-lethal force to stop the rioting. Well, they took away their ability to use a baton, pepper spray, taser, stripped them of defense. And Lord knows they can't use their gun. To all my brothers and sisters out there in law enforcement, I feel for you. I know what you're going through. I was one of you. I still consider myself a part of the Blue family. I got many friends that are still serving in law enforcement, even some that I went to the academy with that are still with San Mateo County Sheriff's Office that I stay in touch with on Facebook. Some have retired. And from time to time, we talk about the issues that are happening across our nation. What a lot of people don't realize how important mayoral elections are. When it comes to the city police departments, There is a city police chief that's in charge, appointed by the mayor, serving at the direction of the mayor and the pleasure of the mayor. And the mayor at any moment can say, "You're fired." No questions asked. You're gone. So in places like Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, New Orleans, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Chicago, Philadelphia, Memphis. The list goes on and on and on, where all these peaceful protesters are at. The mayors step in and tell their chief, stand down. Nope. Just let them burn it. Just let them do it. Let them do it. Don't matter. And in the process, police officers are injured and killed. And because of the violent rhetoric that has come out of Democrat members of Congress' mouths, and they want to talk about Trump inciting violence, but they don't want to talk about their own members inciting violence. Remember Maxine Waters? She's the poster child for inciting violence. When she stands in front of a microphone and tells people to go get in the face of Trump supporters. Anyone you see in the Trump administration, go get in their face and tell them they're not wanted, no matter where they're at. If they're in a restaurant, if they're pumping gas, if they're in the store, I want you to go get in their face. It's right here on YouTube. Watch it if you don't believe me. I wonder how many people were physically injured and, in some cases, died because of her rhetoric. I guarantee you it's several hundred, if not over 1,000. Remember all the cases that you actually heard about that made it to the news, where somebody wearing a Make America Great Again hat was beat and pummeled in the street for wearing a freaking hat? Oh, Maxine Waters told us to do this. And then, of course, there's Democrats fall right, lock, stock, right in line with Colin Kaepernick, taking a knee for the national anthem and saying that all cops are racist bigots. They wake up every day and the only thing they think about is how many unarmed, innocent black youth can I go kill today? And started spreading this narrative that wasn't true. And CNN picked it up and MSNBC picked it up and they ran with it. Cops are bad. And they're teaching that to our kids. Cops are bad. Granted, there are some bad cops. I'm not saying they're not. Just like with any company, any business, hell, even in the military, you're going to have some bad apples. And they need to be weeded out. I'm all for that. When a cop does something that's completely not trained to do and takes a life that he shouldn't have or she shouldn't have, I get it. But that's not the brush they're painting with. No, they're taking people like Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, the whole hands up, don't shoot, that wasn't true, a false narrative. Hell, the Obama administration sent representatives to Michael Brown's parents' house to apologize for the police officer's actions of killing their poor innocent son. And they even went to his funeral. And it was all a lie. And they knew it was. They didn't care. They just were on board with painting the narrative that cops are bad. So there were all the investigations. There were the local investigations. There were the county investigations. There was the state investigation. We brought in the federal government and they did an investigation. The DOJ did, the FBI did. And when it was all said and done, it was all a lie. The justification for shooting Michael Brown was 100% A-OK. He was a thug that physically attacked a police officer and tried to take his gun away from him. And he outweighed and was way bigger than the small statued cop who he was beating the shit out of. It was either the cop shoot him and go home to his family, or be killed. We also saw the same type scenario play out in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with Alton Sterling, a thug, banishing a weapon, threatening people in a parking lot. The cops get the call, they show up, they see the person, Michael Brown, they tell him to hands up or put your hands behind your back or get on the ground, whatever. And he refuses. And they have to get in a physical altercation with him. And he's fighting them. And he's bigger than they are. And he's winning. They deploy a taser on him. Doesn't work. Now they're rolling around on the ground with him. As one of them realizes, Alton Sterling has one of his hands in his pocket and he's trying to pull something out. And the cop realizes that's where the gun is. And before he got a chance to get that gun out of his pocket and shoot one of them, two of them, think about this, two cops are on top of him and can't control him. He's that strung out on whatever he had in his system. And they have to shoot and kill him when he had his hand on that gun. Well, what happened? The cops lost their jobs, just like the cop did in Ferguson, Missouri. They were labeled as racist bigots. They were labeled as someone who shot and killed an innocent black youth. And in both cases, we saw that that wasn't true. What the cops did was justified. Anyone else would have done the same thing and put in the exact same situation as those cops were. But it doesn't matter to the Democrats. To this day, even sitting members of Democrats in Washington, D.C. still refer to Alton Sterling and Michael Brown as martyrs, as the proof that racism exists rampantly in law enforcement. And it's not true. It's a bull-faced lie. And they still keep preaching it. And so does the drive-by media. It's like the Twilight Zone. It doesn't make any sense. Number one, don't rush to judgment. Let's see the facts. Let's the investigation go through. And once it has, let's see the results. And right now, in Baton Rouge, hell, there's statues erected for Alton Sterling. He's freaking God to them. Same thing with Michael Brown. Hell, I can think of a lot of black people that lost their life that you guys should be freaking holding up on a high pedestal. Not those two fucking thugs. Are you shitting me? But no, that's the ideology that the Democrats have after being infiltrated by these crazy liberals, and they're destroying everything, to include looking at the Constitution and interpreting it the way they want to, and changing the meaning of what the forefathers put there in writing, as they did today with President Trump. It's pretty simple. Americans, you cannot impeach someone that isn't in office. Impeachment is removal from office. But they're doing it anyhow because they don't care about the Constitution. In fact, if you don't already realize this, and I've been saying it for a long, long time, you can go back and look at some of my past videos. Everything I've been telling you was going to come true if Democrats got elected. It's like a vision from God, because it's all happening. It's unfolding right this very moment. When I said, God forbid, if anyone up in Washington, D.C. shows up and starts doing violence, all Trump supporters will look like and be treated as domestic terrorists. And what happened? And what's the drumbeat right now? If you supported President Donald Trump, whether you were Mike Lindell or a football player, baseball player, average Joe on the street, or a member of Congress, you're looked at as a domestic terrorist. Especially if you're white or if you're a veteran. I've done many videos on our Second Amendment rights and how if Joe Biden gets elected, and God forbid, if the Democrats were to win back the House and Senate, as they have, what's going to happen? And there's a bill right now so many people aren't paying any attention to. I just talked about it a couple of days ago, my friends. They're coming for it. They're not going to take away all your guns. They're not going to take away your shotgun. They're not going to take away a deer hunting rifle. But if it looks like it might belong to a soldier, it's gone. If it holds a clip, it's gone. If it has a pistol grip or a handhold, it's out of there. They even want to strip away automatic or semi-automatic handguns. 9 mils, 22s. What they want to leave you with is what they believe the Constitution was written in the Second Amendment for, which is hunting. It wasn't. That has nothing to do with what our forefathers wrote. But What our forefathers wrote in the Constitution when they put in our Second Amendment rights, it had nothing at all to do with hunting. Welfare militia has already taken place, and now they're domestic terrorists, according to the United States government. The America that I served honorably for, I no longer recognize. I hope that things are going to change in the coming years. We got at least, we can attempt to take back the House and Senate next year. We'll see what we have running. That's the only way to stop what Joe Biden's doing. Every Trump policy he's rolling back. He's destroying our gas and oil industry. Texas and Louisiana, for instance, that's where 90% of our everything is going to be just wiped away. He stopped the Keystone Pipeline. He's stopping drilling. He wants to bring us independent once again on Middle Eastern oil. That's his plan. Something that we have fought and begged to get away from. And we finally did. And I'll be damned if this guy isn't hell-bent on destroying good things. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many things coming down the pipeline in the next few weeks that are going to just blow your socks off. For instance, how many people know that today, with everything that was happening with the impeachment stuff and all that, Joe Biden sent out a letter to every federal judge, I think there's 82 of them, that Trump appointed to resign because he's going to replace them with Democrat judges. That's right. That's exactly what he did and said. And they're already talking about stacking the Supreme Court so that they can get their agenda through. So there'll be no checks and balances. That's what they want. That's not what our framers intended. Our forefathers did not want what's happening right now to take place. But they don't care. Because they don't care about the Constitution. They're on record basically saying it's just a document. We're in some trying times. And sadly, we let it get away from us. And there's no reeling it back in. The only way to do that is with elections, period. Getting the people out there to vote. Because if you do anything else, you're labeled as a domestic terrorist. And they're going to come get you. And they're going to lock you away. But they won't do that to Democrats. And that is shameful. I've told you in many videos before, the leadership in the Department of Justice and the leadership of the FBI are corrupt criminals that don't give a shit about the Constitution either, that work for the Democrat Party. And if I didn't know any better, I would think that Hillary Clinton and George Soros were sitting back, pulling all the puppet strings. And I think they actually are. Because we've watched We watched them testify in front of Congress and lie and not be charged. We've watched them do things and admit to doing things that are felonies and crimes and not be charged. From Benghazi to running weapons at the border, fast and furious, to the email scandal, to the email server, to the coup attempt to take down a sitting president with James Comey and Loretta Lynch, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and nobody charged because they're a Democrat. Hell, look at all the people that were associated with Trump that they went after for Russia collusion. And then when they couldn't find Russian collusion, kept digging until they could find something to charge them with. What kind of law enforcement is that? What kind of justice is that? If they can do that to Roger Stone, what do you think they could do to you? Imagine for a moment. Local law enforcement gets a tip that you're selling crack out of your house. And they get a warrant and they come busting into your home. And they don't find any crack. They don't find any evidence of any crack. In fact, there's no evidence of drugs at all in your house. Your house seems peaceful. Family, wife, kids, husband, whatever. Dog running around. Hamster and a turtle in the kid's bedroom. There's nothing there. But they decide, you know what? It's got to have done something wrong. Let's look at his bank account. Let's look at his taxes. Let's go back 10, 15 years. And they dig into your life. And they start going into directions and areas that have nothing to do with supposedly your crack cocaine that you were selling out of your house until they find something. 10 years ago, there were $5 extra that you got on your taxes because you checked the wrong damn box. Bam! And you're arrested. That's what happened to acquaintances of President Trump. When we watched the Democrats openly admit to their crimes and not zero, nothing happened to them. Do you know when Hillary Clinton was brought in by the FBI for interrogation of her server in the basement and the $30,000 or 30,000 emails that were destroyed so you couldn't read them? Public knowledge, public information that has to be saved. Do you realize she was never read her rights? She was allowed to have her attorneys present. She was allowed to have her personal assistants present. And now we're finding out that it was just all a big dog and pony show. Hell, Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, was meeting with the husband of the woman that's under investigation by the FBI. Talking about their kids and family on an airplane or a tarmac at an airport. You couldn't make this shit up if you tried. There's one set of rules for Republicans and one set of rules for Democrats in the United States of America. That's how it is today. Period. That's where we're at. So if you're a Republican or you're a conservative or you did anything to support President Trump, maybe it's on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, watch your six. Because who knows who's going to come beating your door down to take you out one day. What it reminds me of is when I read about and was educated about in school of Nazi Germany, of Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, all these locations around the globe that were taken over by authoritarian dictatorships, coup attempts that worked, and the people had their rights stripped of them. That's happening right this very moment in the United States of America. You had many places you could be tonight. You chose to be here. For that, I can't thank you enough. As a reminder, please go to the YouTube channel, The Douglas Ducote Show, and subscribe, because come Monday of next week, that's where the show will be aired. Also, if you're new to this channel, subscribe, ring the bell. You won't be notified, but do it anyhow just to piss off YouTube. That's why we have the new channel. And eventually they'll screw with it too. And then go over to my website, check it out. You can also follow me on Facebook, American Patriot by the Grace of God, as well as the Douglas Ducote Show on Facebook. I'm on BitChute, I'm on Gab, I'm on Rumble, I'm on MeWe. I was on Parler till they took that away. Wimpkin. In the description of this video, once it gets posted and it's no longer live and it's an actual video, all the different locations will be posted right there for you to just click on the link. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America more today than we've ever needed before. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful and blessed rest of your evening. I'm out.